When it comes to modern horror movies, the cliche that I absolutely loathe are jump scares, especially false jump scares. So when Insidious came out and everyone was telling me that it was the jumpiest film they'd ever seen, I did not want to watch it. But when I was originally going to do this year's month of reviews last year, I decided that since it was a film that everyone loved, that I should finally give it a watch. I rented it through Love Film, watched it, and then the following day I went out and bought it without any hesitation. This film is fantastic, honestly one of my favourite horror movies of all time. The film is about Josh and Renee, played by Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne. They move into a new house with their two sons Dalton and Foster and their infant daughter Callie. Shortly after moving in, Dalton hears weird noises in the attic. While climbing up a ladder, he sees a shadow and falls off. The following day, he falls into a coma. 3 months later, he still hasn't emerged from the coma. Then weird stuff starts to happen around the house. They hear noises on the baby monitor, the burglar alarm constantly goes off for no reason, and also they start seeing weird figures around the house. The first half of the movie is absolutely terrifying. They use jump scares incredibly effectively. Instead of having loads of false jump scares where a cat or something jumps out, every single jump scare is from a ghost. This makes it actually scary because that is the sort of thing that would actually happen if the events happen in real life. The film does a fantastic job of building suspense and you're constantly on the edge throughout the entire film, so when these jump scares come, they really get you. It's not like something like The Woman in Black where the jump scares are way too regular and there's barely any suspense in there, so it's just like watching a normal movie and then every once in a while someone jumps out at you. This film is not just filled with jump scares, its scares are caused by all different things, including atmosphere and just all around creepy scenes. I'll never be able to hear Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim ever again without getting incredibly creeped out. And I think that's what makes this film a huge cut above the rest of the modern supernatural horror movies. This film does use some cliches from modern horror movies, but uses them effectively and as a tool instead of building a structure around them. The second half of the film is quite a bit different, but still very scary. Josh's mother Lorraine calls in 3 paranormal investigators, Elise, Specs and Tucker. Elise explains that Dalton isn't actually in a coma. He has the ability to travel outside of his body across the astral plane, but he travelled too far and got lost in a realm known as the Further, where many evil spirits rest. When they see these spirits in the real world, it's because they are trying to enter Dalton's body and take over. Since Josh also has this ability, Elise puts him into a trance and he has to go to save Dalton, return him to his body, and at the same time escape the spirits. The idea behind this movie is fantastic. It's incredibly unique, yet at the same time borrows a lot of things from other haunted house movies. There are a lot of similarities between this movie and Poltergeist, but they actually managed to switch things up and make the film feel original and not like a complete rip-off of that film. You can tell it was heavily inspired by Poltergeist and they do borrow a lot from it too, but they actually do interesting stuff with it and make a completely new movie out of it. What makes this film good is its use of a large variety of scares. It harkens back to horror movies of the 70s and the 80s in the way it scares its audience. Nowadays horror movies don't really have many types of scares, they pretty much just have jump scares and nothing else. So for this film to have jump scares but be filled with so much atmosphere and creepiness is something fantastic. This film also has no blood or gore in it at all. In fact, in the US this is a PG-13 horror movie. For a PG-13 horror movie to not only be original but at the same time really scary is quite an achievement. The film is the third collaboration between director James Wan and writer Leigh Whannell, who previously made the original Saw and Dead Silence. These two need to make more films together because so far they haven't made a bad film together at all. James Wan is in my opinion the best modern horror director around. He understands the genre completely and not a single one of his horror movies are bad. It's a shame now that since he directed one of the Fast and Furious movies, he seems to be kind of moving away from horror movies. I hope he really does return to them because he's fantastic at making them. There were 2 sequels in the Insidious series, only one of which was directed by James Wan. What's my opinion on those 2 movies? Well, you'll have to wait and see. Insidious is an all-around fantastic horror movie. Everything it does right. My only problem is the second half isn't as good, but still there are some insanely creepy scenes all throughout the movie. I give it a 10 out of 10.